Hey everybody, welcome back to Knifelmism. I'm Ryan.
I'm Drew.
Drew, what year is it?
It is 1999.
No.
Wait.
Like, what year actually is it?
It's 2019.
Which means that next year is 2020, which means that the year 1990 would be how long ago?
Oh, no.
I'm gonna make you answer
We're
this.
already at the point where there are legal consenting adults that weren't alive when The Matrix came out.
Yes. How many years is that, though?
30.
30 years. 30 years from 1990, which is bizarre for people in our age range. I mean, I'm 34, almost 35.
It's the time dilation that comes with growing up, because when you're a kid, your years take forever. Like, a movie that might come out in 2 years feels like forever, but as an adult, you're like, oh, I'll wake up tomorrow and that'll be out.
Yeah. And part of it too is just, being an adult and having life and the daily grind and everything. But
yeah,
we're here to talk about a couple of movies from 1990 because, contrary to popular belief, the superhero genre in film did not start with either the X-Men or Iron Man.
No, it would be X-Men or Raimi Spider-Man, really.
Yeah, that era.
Those are where everybody considers, like, these prove that these can be good movies again.
2000-ish was around the time that those started coming out. But if you go back 10 years, go back 5 years, and you've got all the really shitty Batman movies. And you have Spawn, which was 96 or 97.
Yeah.
So the mid-90s were just a dead zone where I didn't think that superhero movies were ever going to come back. Yeah. I was wrong. But if you go back to 1990, you're talking 1 year after the 89 Batman. And it was an interesting year for comic book movie adaptations, or almost comic book
movie. I wish I could have made an adaptation, but it would take another 15 years or so before I could really redefine the genre.
So we are here to talk about the 1990 classics, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the criminally underrated Darkman.
Yes.
I think you should probably explain what we're talking about, though, in terms of Darkman and not really an adaptation and all that. So,
well, from what I've heard or read, was Raimi coming off of doing his Evil Dead first two movies, because I don't think Army of Darkness came till like 93.
Yeah,
92.
Yep.
But like, he was becoming a little bit more of like, oh, this is a guy that we could look into doing something, and he wanted to do a superhero movie, but I don't know if it was the studios attached or if it was, well, Batman just came out, like, let that breathe, and like, we'll see what other people are gonna do before we jump in and make a fool of ourselves. But for what it's worth, nobody wanted to pay for licensing for this horror director to do a licensed superhero film.
Right. Do you even know which one he wanted to do?
I don't know. I don't know if he always wanted to do Spider-Man or whatnot, because Marvel wasn't licensing anything out after Corman bought their stuff and did nothing really with them. But like, yeah, this is that weird period before the comic industry boom that immediately crashed and had Marvel selling off all their stuff to studios that actually knew how to make movies that saved their asses before Disney bought them and saved their ass, and they saved Disney's asses.
It's all cyclical. And then the other one, of course, from the other big one from 1990 is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, and I think this was a direct choice of, we're going to take a really popular thing that should never became like, the Ninja Turtles are like one of the most interesting, like, how the hell did this become a popular thing? Because it was like two guys living in Vermont,
Eastman and Laird, right?
Yeah. Just, we want to satirize Frank Miller's like modern Daredevil run. Not because they didn't like it, they loved it. They're just like, it's pretty funny that like this medium has become this. Like, let's just turn that on its ear. And they were for, I want to say, at least the first year of were just literally like hand running the issues out of their apartment,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then, now, what year did the cartoon come out?
86 or 87. I don't know.
Okay, so the cartoon did predate
because I'm pretty sure the cartoon wasn't directly competing with Transformers at that point, because Turtles was in that, like, we grew up in that era when there weren't laws regarding how you could sell things to kids. So every toy line was really tied into like a cartoon series, and this is for anybody who's like a true millennial, unlike us that don't really consider ourselves millennials. But like, there are laws that are reasons why that doesn't happen anymore. But growing up, we had these things.
The targeted at children Terminator and like just weird stuff. No, like I watched Terminator pretty young, but let's just say that most things like the Starship Troopers should not have had a toy line.
Aliens had an action figure line. Predator, like all these things that were rated R, hard R movies were like marketed just because that's how you could make a ton of easy money in the 90s is you license something, you print out some shitty action figures, and kids will buy them.
Everything had either an NES or a Super Nintendo.
Everything got a licensed game. It was a weird time.
But 87, I looked it up. So you've got this weird thing where inexplicably you've got a cartoon in 87 based on
off of a subversive comic,
subversive no-name comic, really, that I'm glad it did well. But if you've ever read the original Eastman and Laird comics,
it's great. It's dark.
It is super dark.
It's really good. Like, Eastman and Laird Turtle stuff is really good. And like, I want to say one of them came back because I recently read through a lot of the modern run, and the modern run is very much like, yeah, it's silly, but like it's serious. But no, everybody remembers the multicolored bandana cartoon Ninja Turtles.
The original one, I want to say they all had either just like,
well, it was all grayscale because again they were just printing it themselves. But traditionally they all wore red.
Red, yep.
But that brings us to the 1990 film, which is far more Eastman and Laird than the cartoon. Than the, I don't even know which company it was. Playmates? I want to say it was Playmates Toys. And the Playmates Toys sanitized cartoon.
Listen, I just rewatched most of it. Now, I fell asleep with about half an hour to go.
Probably around where they're at the farm, right?
Yeah. And I woke up and was going to finish the next day, only to find that it was no longer on Prime. I caught it the last day it was on Prime. So I didn't get to watch the ending again. But tonally, I was having trouble making heads or tails of it.
It's whiplash. It's whiplash. Because at times it's really like
almost
serious,
unwatchable, childish crap.
And then it's just nonsensical.
Mixed with super serious. Like the fight scene where Raphael gets the shit kicked out of him and then
thrown through a skylight.
At first, that scene, like, they try to keep the tone a little humorous. You can tell, oh, okay, this is not going to end well. And by the time he crashes through the skylight, they're saying, "Hey, is he dead?" Oh, okay, they brought that up.
Yeah.
Seeing Splinter basically in like a crucified position, tied up with chains in Shredder's basement. An entire underground culture of kids, by the way, who are all smoking and drinking.
Yes.
Which showing kids,
it's very weird.
Showing kids smoking and drinking in a 1990 movie is, I don't know, I wasn't sure what to make of that.
And it's like, do people, like, I don't know if we wanted to look it up, but it's like, do people forget that like this happened before freaking out about the swearing kid in RoboCop 2?
Right. Or maybe, oh, well, swearing, you hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe swearing is something like sex, where some people get a little more uptight about it in movies, where, oh, well, the kids watching this, their parents smoke.
I know they're not smoking actual cigarettes on set, so I'm not going to get mad. Like, it's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. And then straight up murder.
Yeah.
At the very end.
Yeah. And like the weird, like just a weird, everything about this movie is weird, and I love it. And I haven't watched it in years, but it's like Casey Jones is played by Elias Cotes, who the only other thing I remember him being in is in The Thin Red Line. This is like a super artsy movie. And it's like, you were Casey Jones? I think they recast, I think Judith Hoag might have been April. And this is just going off of memory. But I don't know. I'm not sure if they recast her for the next two, which became far Katie Fair. It became, movie-going schlock Katie Fair stuff.
Where Elias? Oh, he was in The Prophecy, and he was in Fallen. So two weird like religious thrillers a few years later. He's got the most bizarre career of any side actor that I've. Anyway,
it's that weird like whiplash dissonance that's also in Darkman, but intentionally.
Well, before we get into Darkman, I really thought that this was going to be a very simple review of saying, oh, does the Turtles hold up or does it not? And I don't think there's a simple answer to that question.
No, I think if you're looking for something like that just wouldn't be made today the same way.
Yeah.
Like it would be sanitized today just because that's just how culture is.
There's enough dark stuff in there. And just while we're talking about like the morals,
because this was a PG. Granted, this is early 90s PG, which was essentially modern PG-13. But like this was marketed towards us. Like I think if you I was 6. Yeah, I think if you have the DVDs, you can see the trailers, and the trailers are trying to market towards kids. So like this was clearly marketed towards, hey, we know kids are going to bring their parents, and I don't like the sensibilities of our parents. I don't know if they realized. Like I don't know if back then it really mattered that much. I think we. Like, is this me getting on the pulpit and saying we were raised tougher than kids nowadays? Because maybe it is, but, like, I don't know. We lived in a culture where there were smoking sections and stuff, so it wasn't that odd.
I think part of it, too, is just I think there's a little bit more fear now of courting controversy.
Yes.
Unless you're trying to intentionally foster that to try to drive things for your movie. But if you're doing a kid's movie...
Basically, if this movie was made the same way today... A lot of these things would have been done intentionally, but they were just done because that's the story back then. It's something that like it's just weird. It's like a time capsule type thing.
Yeah, the character of Splinter feels like something out of like a Don Bluth animated movie.
Yeah,
where it's something ostensibly in a kid's thing, but it's such a melancholy, dark. And the puppet work in that. Look, I get it. We're talking how many years after Empire? 8 years?
Yeah.
So, but I am going to put Splinter up there with Yoda as...
All the animatronics in that movie are good.
I would almost argue that the scenes with Splinter get me more than the scenes with Yoda.
He's more omnipresent in the film, too, though.
True, but you're supposed to get this... sense from Yoda when he switches character and you should be afraid.
Yeah,
but I never really felt a connection to Yoda. Where Splinter, like when Yoda died, I didn't care. All right, he's an old Jedi.
Well, a lot of it too is Yoda was like tell don't show. It was like there's legends of like this Jedi master. It's like no, Splinter's like their dad.
Exactly. So I think he works better as a character than Yoda.
Yeah, which... It's still a good movie. I mean, like you just got to realize that it was made for kids to go and drag their parents to. It's just
so you've got to get through long stretches of very childish
slapsticky garbage.
Yeah, but if you can sit through that, there are enough kernels of wow that there is some value to this.
Yeah.
That switching over to the other 1990 comic book non-adaptation.
Yeah, basically, so Darkman, going back, switching gears again. So Sam Raimi couldn't get a licensed comic movie, so he said, screw them, I'm just going to make my own character up and just do what I do. And that's where you get Darkman, which, if you haven't seen Darkman in a long time, and you probably have seen Spider-Man more recently, they're basically the same damn movie, like, composition-wise, like, shot-wise, and, like Darkman's a little more hokey, and that makes me laugh sometimes because like there's a lot of hokey nonsense in Darkman for a hard R movie. It's really hokey for an R-rated movie.
It is.
Darkman almost feels like it could be PG-13 if you cut a little bit of the swearing out.
Yeah, a lot of the violence is just ridiculous, almost Gotham or RoboCop 2 level of violence.
Yes.
It's over the top, but in a ridiculous way. It's
like Batman 66, where you see the impact and not the bam pow onomatopoeia shots. It's like you see the guy's head go through a window, not the pow over that. It's basically that. It's like old school choreographed like fighting, but like not graphic, but like just on the edge of like, oh, this could get really gross. And it does at one point.
Part of that is due to the absolutely amazing makeup work that they do, especially on Liam Neeson.
Who...
Should we get back and talk about the plot of this first? I mean...
Yeah. Super simple distilled comic book plot. Liam Neeson, looking super young, plays Peyton Westlake, who is Scientist Man. You don't know why he's doing this, because it doesn't matter, it's just comic book science man. But he's trying to develop a synthetic skin, probably for burn victims. The problem is that it decays within 99 seconds in normal sunlight.
Minutes, I thought.
Yes, not 99 seconds.
No, because he goes out for a while.
Wow, yeah, minutes.
99 minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
We're gonna go with that.
Yeah. But, it decay, it just completely decays, but it basically completely replicates organic skin synthetically. So you would imagine the applications in like, burn units and, like, scarring, like, surgical units, like, so that's all you really have as far as him. And then his girlfriend...
an attorney, I think?
Is she...
A reporter or an attorney? She's
an attorney, but I don't know if she's a private real estate attorney who just has, like, a moral ethic, or if she's, like, representing the city. I would think she's probably working for the city somehow.
Regardless, she's got some paperwork that some powerful people don't want getting out there because it implicates them in some money laundering and some other stuff. So they send a team of goons over to...
Oh, and she's played by Frances McDormand, also looking super young. This is like 5 years before 7 years? Fargo came out in late 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of her, she's the voice of God on Good Omens.
Oh, really?
Which, if you're not watching...
I can't. I've watched enough David Tennant with watching Doctor Who to know. And Michael Sheen, you were in Frost Nixon. What happened?
Okay. The show is amazing. And I have come to the conclusion... We're just going to go off on a tangent here for a second. I've come to the conclusion that I hate Doctor Who, and here's why. I will watch anything with David Tennant in it because David Tennant is that good of an actor. Things like Jessica Jones, in hindsight, season 1 was all David Tennant.
Pretty much.
And it was something that otherwise okay, sure, whatever. David Tennant, though, I can watch anything with him in it. And I tried watching Doctor Who thinking, I like David Tennant so much.
Let me see where he started, basically.
Let me watch this, and I find the whole show unwatchable. I'm sorry.
It's too British.
I like British.
But, like, it's too weird British.
I will watch Mr. Bean anytime it's on.
Oh, Bean.
That
should be an episode. I haven't watched Bean in a long time.
I should go back and rewatch that, too. But anyway, Frances McDormand takes us off on this tangent, but well,
she's like a really good, important, like, character actor. And it's just funny to see two, like, pretty prominent and, like, respected character actors in a goofy Sam Raimi movie. And this movie's really fucking goofy.
Sam Raimi is... certain directors, you can just tell, because their signature is so strong on the movie that you can watch a Tarantino movie or a Michael Bay movie, and automatically with how it's shot and everything else.
Well, it's I think it's easier with this, but it's like you could show somebody who doesn't pay attention to who makes movies. You could be like, okay, we'll watch Darkman, and you'll watch Darkman with them. You'll be like, the guy who directed this movie is Sam Raimi, and then like a year later, that person might be like, did Sam Raimi do this old Spider-Mans? And you'd be like, yeah, and you'd be like, how do you know? It's like, well, like, there were things that looked weird when that Doc Ock scene happened. And you're like, yeah, because that's Sam Raimi. Like, snap zooms is Sam Raimi.
And that's all.
Really crazy dolly track zooms are Sam Raimi.
And that's a staple in the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah.
Which...
But, yeah, this movie's really fucking goofy. But, yeah,
but it's so good.
So his girlfriend is representing either the county selling land to this conglomerate, and she has, incriminating evidence that there's laundering involved, and conveniently leaves that document at their apartment,
which is where his lab is.
Yes, and they live on the nicest possible street in Detroit, and don't give me guff about this because Detroit in 1990 was probably just as fucking bad as it is now.
Maybe worse.
Probably worse. But yeah.
So they go in, they blow the lab up. He survives, but he's all disfigured.
They basically beat the shit out of him, kill his lab assistant, make racial epithets about his lab assistant because 1990 and bad guys in movies.
And
then they plunge him into his own like boiling vat of the skin culture.
And then you can start to see, as the plot progresses, as he uses the skin in a number of plots to start turning all the people that wronged him against each other.
Yeah,
and
let's handle this first. Darkman is not a hero. He's just a fucking crazy man. Yeah, he's crazy homeless guy who actually has powers. And by powers, I mean he's completely cut off from his nervous system, so he's a psycho. Because he can't feel pain anymore. And they explain basically that why they're doing this, and like this is very out of RoboCop 2, is the doctor like, oh, we did this, like we cut off all of his nerve endings because he's already in excruciating pain, but like it's gonna make him kind of psychotic because he can't feel anything, so his emotions are gonna like go crazy.
You start for stimuli.
But he's homeless, so this is better than just letting him die painfully, I guess.
Jesus. The plot then, you can actually see where this movie influenced a number of more recent superhero movies. One, when he goes to find his girlfriend, and at first he's just wearing a big trench coat and he's hiding his face, and then he realizes
there's like
that's Deadpool.
Super like intentional, like over stylized stuff. Like the trench coat he gets is basically like a Victorian overcoat because he steals it from outside of a theater. If you look, so he's the Phantom of the Opera. Like he's the Phantom of the Opera in that scene. Like there's a lot of overt like stuff that is very eye rolling, but it's Sam Raimi. This is what he does.
I actually recently rewatched the black and white silent Phantom of the Opera, and that's what I was kind of thinking of when I saw this. But then to bring it to a more modern audience, because how many people have watched the 1930-ish Phantom of the Opera? Deadpool.
Yes.
The number of scenes where Deadpool is about to approach his girlfriend and just can't do it because he's hideous. That is part of the plot of Darkman before he starts using the skin. And then all the plots that this guy gets into, all these schemes for trying to kill all these people that wronged him, reminded me of the 2004 Thomas Jane Punisher.
Yes.
Where you'd think in a movie like The Punisher, he would have just been going around and murdering people.
It's like it's more acceptable for him to like in grief just hunt these people down, but it's like no, like there's like a tactical like he's really really thought about this. He's fine with killing people.
And he's going to do it in a creative and clever way.
Yes.
So why should people watch this movie besides the scene at the carnival? Because the scene at the carnival is...
As soon as you told me to rewatch it, I'm like loading, I'm like working, and I'm thinking, give me the fucking elephant.
Yeah, it's there's a scene.
The clown scene. There's Sam Raimi, and then there's two Sam Raimi. And two Sam Raimi is Spider-Man dancing down the street, or horribly disfigured Darkman putting a funnel on his head and dancing around like a clown, which happens for far too long in this movie, and is too pivotal of a scene to be that cheesy. But that's Sam Raimi.
Yeah, but so 1990 was I guess just to recap, 1990 was a weird time in comic book.
Like comic booky movies, basically.
Yes. I don't know. You would almost have thought that... Hell, Darkman gets Danny Elfman to do the score. So you can't say that Batman didn't have any influence on any of this, because it's Danny fucking Elfman, and the scores are... Oh, I'm going to change 3 notes.
Yeah.
So you've got a weird Ninja Turtle movie that's having the
they're
adults,
both dipping
kids.
into tones you wouldn't expect for their ratings. Like there's so much cheese in Darkman for what's supposed to be an R movie, and there's too much R content in a PG movie.
Yeah.
It's like they kind of like Venn diagrammed.
And then throughout the rest of the 90s, things just got weird as people went for, we're either going to try to be edgy with something like Spawn, or we're just going to get way too childish and other stuff. And I it's a weird time capsule, 1990, because...
Well, I think because you got to think too, because this is before Returns, which is close in tone to '89 Batman, because it's still Tim Burton, but like, I think these are two movies where it kind of showed that like you can make a ton of money. Well, I don't think Darkman made a ton of money. He probably did relatively well. I'd have to look. It's like people still remember it.
Yeah.
But like Turtles did really well, and I think it was kind of when you had directors that were like, so I could probably fuck around with what the studio wants while making what the studio wants, and that's where you get weird crap like the Schumacher Batman and stuff, because it's like people are gonna pay money anyways. I can do whatever the hell I want with it.
Even Batman Returns, I don't like Batman Returns. I watched the first two, 89 and then Returns, back to back. 89 is a phenomenal film. The set design, everything about it is... You get into the...
It becomes too modern Tim Burton by Returns.
And
like
it's
too
goofy.
Too weird, like,
it's way
like Alice
too,
in Wonderland-y weird.
Way too goofy. And I almost want to say that these 1990 movies kind of opened the door for Tim Burton to go that direction.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I honestly don't think... So the 89 Batman is a fairly serious movie, as much as it can be for what it is. And it totally shifts in tone when you get to 92. 92, I think, for Batman Returns.
Yeah, I want to say.
And I'm honestly not sure that a studio would have been okay with that if it hadn't been for the success of Turtles and, to a lesser extent, Darkman.
Where you could do something that's a bit more like dark but still goofy.
Very
like,
goofy.
we could do a little bit more of the camp that people are used to with Batman by that, because 89 was like a total shift for everybody who'd seen like 65 or what is it, 62?
Or even the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, or
I have not seen that in a long time. I kind of want to watch it.
Don't.
Because how bad it is.
Okay. For the record, we are going to do a Punisher episode soon. I have been wanting to talk about the Punisher, not only because Warzone is underrated, but because the place that the Punisher holds in current popular culture is just... It is morphed so bizarrely that I think we do need to examine the evolution of his character in the popular zeitgeist. So that's a tease for something coming up. But yeah, 1990, weird year. And we didn't even talk about Dick Tracy.
No.
Which I haven't seen recently enough to really say too much about that one. But it is
Dick
worth
Tracy
noting.
is far more into that weirdo Batman Returns aspect. Like, I want to make this look like a comic book.
Yeah, and that was also 1990. And
I remember the McDonald's toys for all of these things.
Wait, Darkman?
No, I don't think Darkman did, but I'm pretty sure Darkman had action figures.
I'm sure it did. Everything did.
Now it probably has reaction figures, like, you know, like the cheap 5-point of articulation figures. There's got to be a Darkman figure. And the who was it? Who was the bad guy in Darkman?
I don't remember his name.
With the pedophile haircut.
I don't remember his name, and I just watched this. I was fairly drunk.
Durant, with his pedophile haircut.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're at about 30 minutes talking about movies that are about to turn 30. So I think that might be a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But, God, other than making everyone feel old by pointing out that these movies are 3 decades old at this point, we wanted to go back and just sort of do a recap of a weird era in comic book movies.
Yeah. Stuff that we all probably... Anybody who listens to this probably grew up around the same just stuff that we grew up with that we didn't think about. And now it's like, let's revisit that with like a critical lens and realize how fucking weird some of this stuff was.
And that's hopefully what we've done in at least a moderately entertaining fashion. Anything else?
No, that's it on these two.
All right. Excellent. We'll be back soon. Thanks for listening.